y'all. Welcome to another episode of More Than 94, where former athletes redefine success. I'm your host, Nini, and today's guest, we have Henry Hall. Henry is a real estate entrepreneur. He is an owner of the Aggieland Sports Academy, athlete training, vice president of the NFL Flag here in College Station, Texas. He's the head coach of Pure Speed Track Club, and he's also a full-time dad. He grew up in Oklahoma City, went to Oklahoma State University, where he played 3 sports. I didn't know that: football, basketball, and track. He has a degree in chemical engineer. He ran track in an unattached circuits for about 2 years, played a little bit of arena football, and he was a strength and conditioning coach for 11 years. And he got into real estate after that and has been in real estate for about 3 years. Welcome, Henry Hall, to More Than 94.
Hello. How's it
Thanks,
going?
Henry, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So the gist of the podcast is to highlight people that obviously played a sport in college and went on to do something, professional other than sports. And so we want to highlight those stories because I feel like we hear a lot of stories that just about just only professional athletes and what they're doing after their sport. And I feel like there are people that could have probably went professional, but they're being regular people and doing exceptional and great things. So thanks for coming on the show, Henry.
Well, thank you for having me. And man, just that intro, I'm like, all right, well, okay. No pressure. I think this whole everything with the podcast is awesome. So I am honored to be a guest for sure.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for being on the show. First question is, how did you? First of all, I just want to be like 3 sports in college. I just want to point that out real quick.
So let's be clear. It wasn't some I'm walking in there like 3 superheroes. No. I was there for football.
Yeah.
I was in the right place and the right time to impress the head coach. And I was just practice squad basketball, but
okay.
it was with Eddie Sutton. So I'm putting that in my backpack. I'm keeping that.
Okay.
And then the guys who were on the team, like more than half of them, like had a good career in the league too. And then the track, I was able to run unattached indoor at the same time. So it was, I tell people all the time, the whole stay ready, so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get those opportunities dropped in your lap, and if you are ready to perform, then that opportunity becomes part of your resume. So
what before we get into the details, but what races were you running in the indoor? What events were you running?
So first of all, I'm only built for short distances. Let's be clear.
Okay.
So when I ran outdoor, it was 100 long jump and then the relays. Well, indoor, the track is shorter, so instead of having a 400, it's just a 200 all the way around. So I ran the 60-meter dash, and then I did long jump and triple jump. And I had never even known about indoor track when I was running in Oklahoma. That was bigger in Texas because we just didn't have it. So when I found out I could run something shorter than 100, I was like, oh, sign me up. Let's go.
But the twitch muscles got to be going. I know that 60.
Yeah, no, it's different. It's different. What's funny was I was naturally like the best start. So I didn't win state in the 100, but I won state in the first 70 meters of the 100.
Hey, the first 3 steps.
Oh man, but so that I found out that I was definitely made for the 60. So I was fortunate I got to do that. That was fun, and I found out what college track speed looked like, and it's different.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different. So we're gonna backtrack a little bit. So how did you become? How did sports evolve for you? Starting as a little kid, how did you know you wanted to play football, that particular sport?
So the neighborhood that I grew up in, just like any kid, mama kick you out. Hey, stay outside all day, go play.
Yeah.
I see you before it gets dark. and what we used to play around the neighborhood with. So it was two things that pretty much, no, actually three that you can count on me doing all day growing up. One was I would just randomly race people. So I would walk around. I look. I can't make this up. I would walk around the neighborhood and I'd just be pointing at people like, "Hey, you want to any person, male, female? They could be an adult." I'm like, "Hey, you want to race?" And here's the crazy thing: 99% of people be like, "Okay, sure." And I'm just racing people around the
Stop.
neighborhood all day. That's
Like
one.
grown people just be like, all right, come on, let's race.
Whatever. And here's the fun part: if they would beat me, I'd be like, "Oh, cool, you got to race my mom." They like race your mom, and I will bring people back to the crib and go in and tell my mom, "Hey, somebody's outside that want to race." She come out there in slippers and
Stop.
smoke. That's a whole nother story. So racing people in the neighborhood, flipping. So like a lot of kids, grew up, we just taught ourselves how to do backflips, right? So we, watch whatever we see on TV and like, all right, big trash day, go snag somebody's old mattress, teach yourself how to do a backflip. And then, that's when we would just go to somebody's yard or a hill and spend a day flipping. That was two. Now, the third one is where I found out I might have had an inclination for football. We would play a game called Tackle the Man. This all the kids get together, no matter what age. They just throw the ball
Throw the
up,
ball up.
and throw the ball up, and whoever gets it, you got to go try to score, and wherever it is, a driveway or something.
Yeah.
And I noticed that. Well, I didn't really notice, but I just felt like people had a tough time tackling me.
Yeah.
And some of the older kids, they would call me Sweetness, and I didn't realize what it was, but it was a reference to Walter Payton.
Oh.
And I didn't know that that's what his nickname was, because I guess like they noticed, like, hey
Wait,
man, he
sweet.
kind of got the wiggles. So that was how that was just fun for me. I wasn't thinking I'm gonna play football. Well, then my dad, he was like, I guess he told my mom, I didn't know it. He was like, "Yo, Henry's soft. We need to get him. We need to get him in football." So then, a guy at my church was actually a coach for football. So then I got on his football team when I was 9, maybe 10, and that was how it started. And yeah, it early on it went well. So the first time I got the ball, I scored a touchdown, and it was playing running back, and it just kind of evolved from there. But running away from people and making people miss was something I naturally was pretty good at.
Right. And so,
So
like
that was
in
how.
Little League, I feel like you play all the positions. And so in college,
Mhm.
what did you end up? You were how? I mean, you went to Oklahoma State. I mean, that's a pretty good football school. So in high school, what position did you play to get you to Oklahoma State?
So funny in high school. So in high school, I was a Sanders. I was either Barry Sanders or I was Deion Sanders, but I was one of the Sanders. I always been a running back at heart, and I did well at it. But at my high school, that my senior year, we had a ridiculous blue chip running back, and 6 foot, 210, running a
Yeah.
4.4. Like every school in the country wanted him.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to start at running back. Understandably, at the time, I was like, "No, I mean, I'm better than." But now I'm like, okay, let me keep it real. If I'm a head coach, that's who I'm starting at running back.
Yeah.
But because I worked hard around that, and coach saw that I could catch and I could run routes, he started me a slot receiver because he said, "Henry, you're still dangerous with the ball. So I'm gonna start you a slot receiver, and then whenever he's not in at running back, then you rotate in at running back, and then we'll start you at cornerback on defense." Um, but the fun part was, he's like, "But you are starting returner. Punts, kicks, anything they can kick, you're the
Yeah.
returner." So that was another way for me to get my hands on the ball. And I ended up having like 4 returns for touchdowns. And I had, like 600 yards a receiver. But I, on defense, had 7 interceptions.
Yeah.
And 3 of them were like pick six, took it all the way to the house. So that was what Oklahoma State saw
Okay.
was the oh man, he can play defensive back and he can return kicks. Um, so always be good at more than one thing because that's
Gotta
that's a life
be
lesson.
a utility player. That's what I
Be,
tell 'em.
be good at more than one thing. Don't put your eggs in one basket.
Yep.
So that was what Oklahoma State saw. Uh, and fun fact, they didn't even recruit me. They I got there. Fun. I can't even make this up. I was recruited by some other D1 schools, but Oklahoma State wasn't one of them, and I wanted Oklahoma State. So
Oh.
this was back in the day when you could like get your film and put it into VCR and record, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I made my own highlight film and I sent it to Oklahoma State. I made mine. I said they are going to give me a scholarship. I sent it to Oklahoma State, and I made the All-State game in Oklahoma for
Yeah.
best in the West, and I had a plan. I said, all right, I'm gonna send them this video. They said didn't send me an offer yet. I said I know they're coming there because my teammate is gonna be there, and then the number one receiver in the state who's playing on the
Other.
East, he's gonna be there. I said I'm gonna play against him. I'm gonna guard him. I'm gonna lock him up, and Oklahoma State's gonna say that's my guy. Well, I played him. I didn't lock him up. He had like one catch, but it was enough where a week after they said, "Hey, can you come visit?" Like, yes, Lord, and that was how I was able to get to Oklahoma State.
Oh, so you wanted to stay home.
It wasn't even a home. I had like my aunts and uncles went to Oklahoma State. My
Oh,
mom
okay.
went to Oklahoma State, so it was one of those. And at the time, Oklahoma State they had just finished a fantastic year of football. They had put
Mhm.
like four people in the league in the first three rounds, so they were doing their thing. I'm like, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
So that was why Oklahoma State.
So
Yeah.
going to Oklahoma State, what I mean, obviously after we got to get into the after college situation. Um, you got a degree in engineering, right? So what made you pick a different career? Did you ever even utilize that degree, or but what made you go into the other direction of like more like you know health and physical training, all that kind of the athletic side instead of going with your engineer degree?
Yeah, I've worn a lot of hats, Shania. A lot of
Yeah, I
hats.
know some
And
of them. I don't
like
know all of them.
so if I we wouldn't even have time for me to tell you all of them. But as far as the engineering was concerned, I'd always naturally been good in math and science. I have aunts and uncles that are engineers, so it just made sense.
Hmm.
And when, in my pre-req courses and, those first 2 years,
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough, but I'm like, all right. And then once I got into engineering school, once I really got to see, like, hey, this is what you'll be doing, and kind of more the oil and gas route.
Yeah.
Um, it was fine, and did like some visits and many internships at like ConocoPhillips and a couple other places.
Okay.
I'm like, this is awesome, but it wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to wake up and do every day.
Gotcha.
Um, so once I did graduate at that time, I was, NFL didn't work out.
Right.
So my agent was like, hey, you got two options. You can try Canada, CFL, or you can, well, actually, it was three. You can go NFL Europe, which I'm like, nope.
I didn't know they had
There
that.
was Canada, and that was like the last year that they had it was 2006. So that was before it folded.
Oh.
And then they said, or you can go try CFL, or you can stay here and do arena football. And I didn't realize like arena football was even a thing, where
Yeah.
these are like athletes that were fantastic in college. Some of them back and forth between pro and maybe they didn't make a training camp or something. But I didn't think that was an option. So I
Yeah.
said, well, I'll try this arena football thing out. And man, it worked. So the first team I worked out for was the team in Tulsa, which was defending champions, and they picked me up from the first workout, and then I ended up like bouncing around everywhere. But I played for 6 years, and it was awesome. It
Yeah.
was awesome, and learned a lot. But again, I got to get paid to play ball, which
Right.
is every person's dream, is getting paid to play ball. I mean, like, they pay for your living, and I'm just getting these checks and just chilling. And then
Right.
that's just for 5 months out of the year. The other 7 months, I'm like, all right, I can do whatever I want. So for the first couple years, I would just come back to Oklahoma and chill, and then
Yeah.
it's like, all right, now I'm at the point where I probably should be looking into what I'm gonna do career wise.
Right.
And it just so happened that the head coach was living in, when I was at the Corpus Christi team, he was living there, and he got the job as the ISS teacher there. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, Henry, you got your degree, you can come here and you can help co-teach math and science, and you can stay here in the off season, and we'll work with your schedule as far as games. So I'm like, okay, well, look at that. All right, I guess I'll go be a teacher and still be able to play ball.
All right.
So that transitioned me into the health and wellness kind of
Oh,
thing,
okay.
because
Okay.
after the teaching thing, in the off season we would do like camps for kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, man, this was fun. So we did a football one, and then we did a speed one. I said, this is cool. I like this. Um, and then some of the parents were like, hey, um, can you help my kid with, some football stuff and all that away from there? I was like, all right, sure. And that was kind of how it started, was
Started.
that
Yeah.
question.
Oh, okay.
And then one day I was in the community center where the team had worked out in the off season. Everybody was gone. And there was a guy there. He was military. I guess he was trying to get ready for his PT test. But he said, hey, yeah, you kind of seem like you know what you're doing. Can you train? Can you help me get in shape or train me for my PT test? And I'm like, okay, cool. So 2 months later, his whole life flipped. He killed the PT test. And he said, hey, I know you played ball. Can you help? My son's trying to do football. So then it just kind of started to make sense.
All right.
And the teaching thing was great. I learned so much about the school system and all of that. But I said, you know what? It's time for me to pivot.
Yeah.
So I put all of my chips in I'm going to start my own training business basket. And I started that in Corpus Christi, and boom, that was how it started. And a year after that, I had my own like flag football league there. And
Okay.
then I started my track club, Pure Speed.
Yeah.
So then I had the training, and then I had that and the Pure Speed. So that was how it all started. And then it just grew from there.
That's good.
Uh, yeah. So
So
that was,
when you say you started all of that, did you know what you were doing as far as like not the training side, but like that's starting a business? Did you know? Can you walk through that, like some of the challenges of starting a business and owning a business, even though
yes.
you're great at the other side, but you got
Yeah.
financials and all that to take care of.
Yeah. So I, uh, I, I had a friend. He actually was an Aggie, but and he business school and all that. So I believe in who, not how.
Yeah.
So I asked him, because he's very successful, had his own businesses. I said, hey, I want to do this training business thing. What do I need to do? He's like, all right, first thing, he's like, if you can't get your LLC right now, he says you at least need to get your DBA.
Yeah.
And that was where I used the DBA Pure Speed, and I did all of the training and branding
Mm.
out of that. So that was where I first learned about the business side of it. But uh, you get some bumps and bruises along the learning path,
There you go. Yep.
and I didn't allocate all of the monies properly, and
Keeping
I
them
didn't use
separate.
the CPA. And
Yeah.
well, IRS said, "What you doing there, boy?" So that was a lesson in how to organize your things financially there,
Yeah.
early on. So I learned that from experience. But as far as the business side, I kind of learned a little bit about how to start it and all of that from the friend, and then it just kind of grew from there. So that was 2.5 years that I
Yeah.
was running that business, by myself. And learning along the fly, and learning on the fly. So
Mm-hmm.
that grew, and it when it got to its pinnacle, it was almost more overwhelming because I didn't have enough business sense to
Mm-hmm.
be able to continue to scale.
Yeah.
It was like, this is all I can handle. I
Yeah.
got one other person helping me, and this is it. And it just so happened at that time, D1, D1 Sports, the gym,
Yeah. Yeah.
they do athlete training and training like the athlete around the country. They had a regional recruiter that had reached out to me, that they were opening a D1 branch in College Station.
Yeah.
So that, they were like, hey, we think with your background and what you're doing right now, we think you
Mm-hmm.
fit the bill for a GM or head strength coach here. And I wasn't drowning. Money was great, but the stress that came with it, because I I didn't have as much of the business sense and I didn't have any help. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this whole salary and benefits thing, and it might be the move for me. So prayed about it and said, okay. That I ended up having to go to um, College Station for an interview,
Yeah.
and then after that, uh, I said, you know what, this is the move. So then I jumped on the D1 bandwagon, packed up from Corpus Christi, moved here to College Station, and that was how I began my true strength and conditioning coach journey, because I
Yeah.
was the head strength coach there.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. That is not. That's a lot. And
it's
so, so, so the challenge was like not that you couldn't be entrepreneur. It's just like it was almost like you were thrown into it and you just didn't know how to navigate it. And it's important to know who, like you said, who, not how, and have the
yeah,
people to actually. So we can like, I guess, kind of talk about that because I think that's important too, especially for like kids that are coming out of college that may, let's say, they may want to be an entrepreneur. Like, what are some of the things that you would tell a kid that wants that has a similar situation as you? You have this opportunity. You know the how, like you know how to work the kids out. You know how to do that part. But as far as
hmm
like, what would you have done differently in the situation as far as the financial side?
Well, because I had absolutely no business sense, like none.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't have any goals set. Like there was nothing. It was just, I'm gonna train and I'm gonna get money and that's it. So there were no tangible like steps. There wasn't a, okay, we need to hit this, then we need to hit this,
Right.
and
Because I think that's
that's
important because
that's
I
the
think
number one.
right because
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids is like, okay, I can go make all this money, but
Uh huh.
again, keep going. But like, I think that's one of the mindsets. Like, I'm gonna go get this check. Well, getting a
Yes.
check requires responsibility. So
It
we
does.
got.
It does.
So go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so you're right. And I was that kid, like I'm about to make it. All these people want to train with me. Um, the first thing is set a goal.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, I don't know, just you need to set a goal for how much money you want to make. And they're like, oh, start your 5-year plan and all of that. You could, but just get one on paper and
Right.
write it down.
Yeah.
Just say in a year how much you want to make. Like, okay. And then you have to break down what that looks like, and then with your business, where your money has to go.
Yeah.
So most people have something that they have to pay for
Mm-hmm.
in life, some expenses. So thinking about what expenses do I have to pay for, or how much do I need to live,
Mm-hmm.
and this money that I'm making that's more than what I need to live. What am I doing with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, when you have no business sense, you just like money, money, money. So
Right.
I guess the best advice I say is one, goal, a goal, some type of financial goal. Actually, I lie. Aside from your goal, we'll say goal first. After
Mm-hmm.
that, talk to somebody who is in the game or who has done it.
There you go.
I had no one. I had no. I mean, I won't say I had no friends, no family there, but I just went to that city because I was playing ball, so I really
Right.
was on my own.
Yeah.
Um, and aside from the one friend who was the Aggie, uh, I didn't want to lean too much because the business part, yes, but it wasn't the specific business that I was doing.
Right.
So I just kind of I was just feeling my way through the dark on a lot of that. So I would say find a mentor. Find a mentor. You have to do it.
But in your situation, Henry, where would you have looked for a mentor? Since like, what do you think looking back now? Like, where would you have looked for? Where would you have looked for a mentor? Because I feel like that's one of the things that people talk about. Go find a mentor. Go find a mentor. Do you like read a book? Like, because I interviewed, was it Brandon Sweeney? He was just like, sometimes a book can be your mentor. Like, you can get a book and that could be a mentor. Because I was just like, what if I look up and like, do you get just a regular mentor, or do you try to find a mentor what you were going through, like in that situation? But if you didn't know nobody, how do you think you should have went about getting a mentor?
Oh, that's such a tough question, Shania. Oh, that's rough because back then everybody wasn't Googling everything as much. I mean, don't get me wrong. It ain't like this is ancient times. This is like 2009,
Right?
Maybe 2010. So Google's around, but yeah, I probably would have found a book about just how to set up a business, because a lot of times I don't think people realize what it entails to actually set up and run a business. I mean, you say it, but there are a lot of things that go along with that get overlooked. And I think that's a lot of the reason why some people who start their own businesses, why it doesn't pan out, is
or
because
they want to start a business, or they don't want to because it's an overwhelming situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
So sometimes a book, and again, you're right. I didn't really have a person, so a book probably would have been the best route. But and then I will say this too. There is a very fine line between, you have to take the leap. What they say, the entrepreneurs jump out of the plane and they make the plane on the way down or whatever.
Jump off the porch.
So I made the jump. So I went from teacher salary to, okay, well, I'm not doing this anymore, and just made the leap. So the leap part is very, very important, but there is some knowledge that needs to go along with that. So yes, take the leap, but you're right. So find some point of reference, whether it's a person or it's a book, to be able to go alongside with that leap of faith. So for my situation, it would have had to have been a book. So I probably would have went to or Googled first, hey, I want to start a training business.
Right.
And, maybe looked at what some other successful people doing that have done. And then whatever books they read, educate myself if I can have direct access to that person. Because there are phases to it. So sometimes there is always an element of self-education in any entrepreneur's journey. And you cannot overlook that. Like, that is a integral part, and there's no way around it. You're going to have to self-educate.
So when you went from essentially being an entrepreneur to being now a W-2, for those, because you went to be at D1, so you were a general manager and head strength and conditioning coach. What kind of challenges that comes with that? Because there's different challenges for being an entrepreneur, from going from an entrepreneur where you set your own schedule, get your own things, and then you're the GM, so I'm pretty sure you still set your own schedule to a certain extent.
Right.
But like, what did those challenges look like for you when you stepped into that role?
So the expectation, it went from my own expectation to this is the company's expectations, and these are all your roles, and this is what all is required, and this is what you got to hit, and this is what we're shooting for, and this is how much it takes to, this is the overhead, So I learned so much about actual business during that span. It was great. So even though that didn't necessarily pan out, everything I learned from head strength coach to general manager is the things that you can only learn from being in that position. You can only read so much before.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah. So I learned what a business is actually like. I learned what franchises are about. I learned what corporate was about. but really it's just the expectation of this is the bottom line as far as the dollar,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to, in order for us to stay afloat, this is what you got to hit. But your goal is to be here if you want to keep your job.
Right.
So, because there is that number side to it. Everyone's like train people and woo, but if the money ain't coming in, you're not gonna be training for very long. Uh, so there was that responsibility. So then I got to, train coaches and employees and kind of handpick and the whole managerial process of putting together a team in
Right.
order to fulfill these goals that I have. I had that part. So when I came in, I was the head strength coach, and they gave me the choice. They said, Henry, based on these things on paper, do you want to come in and be the GM, which is more of the behind the scenes, a lot more we don't want to say clerical work, but you'll be dealing a lot more with the non-training stuff, or the training side, developing the coaches, and then working
Yeah.
alongside the GM. I said, head strength coach, I'll do
Yeah.
that. And so I got to learn all of I learned both sides, but then I was head strength coach, and then probably another, maybe year or so into it, that GM left, and they said, hey, Henry, you already know everything. You want to
Right.
go ahead and just slide into the GM role, and we'll let you do both. Okay. So then I had two hats on. I'm the GM and I'm the head strength coach. And that was a whole other animal. Um, but I learned that the corporate business world, there are some fundamentals there
Mm-hmm.
that parallel running your entrepreneur business. This is just
Right.
business 101.
Yep.
Um, so that was one of the great things about it was I got to learn it being thrown in there. I got to develop a team. I got to learn what works and what doesn't as far as personality types with people.
Yeah.
Um, but the main thing is when you're a salaried employee, especially that position, it's all on you. So there is no amount of hours that, hey, you're capped at. I was 80, 90 hours a week just to make sure everything was right. And then so I was training people and developing coaches, and I'm on the back end as well, making sure the numbers are right.
Yeah.
So it was a lot, and I wouldn't trade it for anything because I
Right.
learned so much.
Yeah.
But that, yes, it's just a different animal, the corporate side for sure.
Oh, it's for sure a different animal. How do you think going through all that? How do you think your sports and background help you navigate through that?
Well, you know how it is in sports. You are at the disposal of, I won't say disposal. You're at the mercy of whatever schedule they set for you, and the goal is to do whatever you got to take to. They'll do whatever it takes to win. So pain, perseverance. I'm tired, but I still have a job to do,
Yep.
and those three attributes alone,
Mm-hmm.
you can make it.
Yeah.
I'm tired, but there's a job that needs to be done. So resting is not. There's no option there, right? My team needs me. Well, okay, my team needs me. Like I don't care if I'm tired or what time it is. My team needs me. Um, and you got to do what you got to do. That's just though. So I will say, being an athlete, it sets you up to be able to do anything. Just because that grit of I'm grinding hard no matter what. I don't feel like it, but I'm still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the underlying success formula. I'm gonna do it. No, I'm tired, but I'm grinding no matter what. Um,
Yeah. And I think those are the
yes,
athletes. You say athlete because, and I say those are the exceptional athletes because I play with athletes that don't have that grit or don't have that.
sure,
So all
sure,
athletes, yeah, you can't put all athletes into that category, but
sure. Yeah, you're
uh,
right.
the ones that those ones, and so I
I
think
do.
that helps out. I feel like that helps a lot when you have, and that's the big word is grit. And I don't even know if you can teach grit. I feel like grit is just one of those things. I don't know. See, I'm not like, hey, I don't know if you could teach grit. It's just like because grit is like almost parallel with that effort word. I
Yeah.
ain't gonna. So I
Oh,
just feel
you're
like
right.
the ones that are like that does well under those circumstances are they have that grit. And when you said you had to like develop coaches and do all of that, was that hard seeing like because I'm sure you ran across a person that may not have taken it as serious or didn't have that necessarily collegiate background, right?
Mhm.
And so, how did you navigate that? Like, was that frustrating? Did you even hire people that were like collegiate athletes or non athletes?
Okay, so that's really funny you say that. Um, I will go to bat with any other former D1 coach and say that I had the most athletic coaching staff in the entire country. And
Yeah.
look, we bring your crew out, mama, destroy them every time. So athletes tend to attract athletes. That's just how it goes. But aside from that, I didn't look at what they were on paper because I said, whatever you don't know, I can teach you. The part that I can't teach you is what you're talking about grit. What, first of all, personalities. Everybody there, I'm like, you need to have an outgoing, likable personality, or we can't do it. Like, I got to see that you're hungry and happy. Get those two H's, hungry and happy.
Hungry and
Every
happy.
single coach there, if nothing else, they were hungry and happy. So I passed on some coaches who were more seasoned, but they were coming in there with the wrong, I don't want to say vibe, but the mindset. The mindset was, I already know it all, and I'm gonna make you better, as opposed to I I'm hungry to get better so that
Mm-hmm.
we can all grow.
Yep.
And so that was the difference in mindset. So every coach there, I had a lot of coaches who had never coached before, and then I had some who had. So I had a healthy combination of both. But what they all had in common was they were hungry and happy. And when you talk to anyone who went to that gym at that time, they would say that they left feeling awesome because they got a great workout, and like all the coaches were just giving. But you have that. It's tough when you talk about the whole personalities, because you do have in that space where they have to be in front of people and directly affecting people, and it's not just, hey, the workout's on the board, I'm going to leave. There's a lot more hand holding involved. You do have to do things based on personality more than you do knowledge based. But the grit is something that they all had, because it's like, look, I'm going to have to teach you a lot, so you are going to have to do more than what is on paper for the hours.
Yeah.
But that's where the hungry comes into play. Because when you're hungry, you don't care what the hours look like. You're going to eat no matter what. So they're going to do whatever it takes to get to, you know, where they wanted to be. And that was what they all had in common, was they were all hungry. So they did all have that grit, even though it was the happy and the hungry. There was an underlying grit for all of them, because they did grind whatever it took. There was times there we was there at 11 at night. We were all there like trying to figure out how to make something work. And that's where the grit comes into play. Nobody complained. They know, hey, look, this is what we got to do to win.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
yeah.
good to have when you got everybody on the same page and knowing what it takes to win.
Yeah.
That's important. So when eventually you play that role for how many years? What, 3 4
So
years?
it was 3 years there. Then I moved to Austin after that, opened a gym there,
Okay.
and then and I did that for 2 years, and then that was when I got into real estate. Was after that.
Okay. So now we're gonna jump to real estate. So that's a whole nother thing. They're like so two unrelated things.
So
Um,
unrelated.
Two unrelated. So now you're jumping back into the entrepreneur space. You went from entrepreneur, now employee kind of situation, and then back to
Uh-huh.
entrepreneur. So getting into that space, just kind of like, first of all, why did you get into real estate? And then what roles and what are you doing now, as far as that's not real estate, but what are you doing now, and what are the challenges that you face now with doing real estate?
What got me into real estate? So I learned a lot about how volatile the training world was. So I got to experience what happened in COVID. So, sometimes you get into a profession and you're like, no matter what, my job is safe. Like people gonna always need to train. They gonna always need a gym. So no matter whatever the economy's doing,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to grind. Until they say, hey, you can't have any physical contact with anybody and your gym can't be open. Oops. Yeah. Well, there went that. So mentally, there was something that grew in my subconscious mind after I made it out of COVID was maybe there's no way that I can allow for this to happen again, where it's like, hey, you have a job. Actually, now you don't because you can't have this physical contact with people. So even though, got out of that and, the gym that, helped open in Austin, it was doing great. I knew that if anything like that happened again, I couldn't allow. I got my kids now, so there's more than just me in the car. So
responsibility.
I got these passengers now. So I was always not necessarily looking, but keeping my eyes open for the next move. And I never thought about real estate, until I helped with the Terrence Murphy camp in 2021, and then running joke was, hey, Henry, we're going to get you back to College Station. Ha ha, okay. But then after that camp, Terrence Murphy called me and he said, hey, Hen, he was like, I know you, basically like, just hear me out. I know you don't know real estate, but I think that you will be great, in real estate. But more importantly, I want to show you how real estate can be the tool to set up your family to be good for life. Like not just you selling real estate, like there's so much more to it, but it starts with real estate. And then I will teach you everything else you need to know, but it's more for that generational wealth and financial freedom that you need for your family.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's funny, God. I was just praying for something. And so prayed on it. And, 3 months later, moved back to College Station, read 52 books in a year, and got into real estate. 52.
And that was by who? Like knowing who? Not how, right?
Yeah, who, not how.
Not who, not how.
Not how. So, yeah, that was how I got into that.
So as you reflect on all your career changes and all the things, what would you say one of your biggest challenges that you face, and how did you get through it? Looking over this to the point in your life right now, looking back, man. all the challenges.
You said the toughest one?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones that you face, and how did you navigate that?
Oh man,
because people need to know how we navigate stuff because social media just shows us the highlight reels. People relate to how they overcome things.
Aside from all of the praying, asking for help, asking other people for help, asking other people for help. That's probably the main thing, because there are those situations where you just don't know what to do. Like I had already prayed, great, but I don't even know what to do. So just making a tough phone call to somebody who may have insight on it, and
so I feel like as an athlete, or just my personality, I don't know, that I struggle with asking for help. Why do you think certain people, or athletes in general, you as an athlete, why do you think you struggle with asking for help?
Because in any sport is you handle your business. You have no help. And I play defensive back, aka I'm on the island. It's just you and whoever's in front of you. So it's already tough sometimes as a man to ask for help, because we're just expected to just know it and have it, and hey, go out and get it and come back with it.
Yeah.
But especially as an athlete, you handle your business. Do your job. Do
Right.
your job. Do your job isn't ask for help. Generally, it's just you and whatever task is in front
Well,
of you.
putting in, putting in more reps, putting in more practice time. But in life,
Yeah,
it ain't putting in reps, like, to a certain
it's
extent.
not.
Like, you can't just go out
It's
there
not.
and just what kind of reps you gonna put in. Like,
Yeah, you can't freestyle it. You cannot freestyle it.
and so I think that's one of the
I'm,
struggles
I'm
for
moving.
athletes, for sure, is if we're struggling at whatever sports you're playing that you're not very good at, you can just go out there and put in more reps, or practice
Right.
more. But in life,
Right.
sometimes it's a situation where it ain't setting you up to it's not setting you up to put in more reps per se.
Yeah, and that's where the help comes into play because you putting in reps the wrong way, that ain't helping the cause.
All right.
And that was probably the main thing is like, all right, I'm spinning my wheels, but I'm not going anywhere. I need to
Mm-hmm.
talk to somebody who actually has been there or is going somewhere.
Right.
So that's probably like the main thing. And then that's a whole nother avenue of, do you have a mentor or somebody that you can talk to about it?
Right.
Because if you don't, that's like, well, shoot, I'm drowning. So that's
Yeah.
why you got to have somebody you
Body.
can lean on. Somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. Um, and then how do you approach setbacks or failures, and what advice would you give to others facing similar challenges?
I guess the first thing to understand is that their setbacks are inevitable, and by inevitable, there is no way around it. Even in the world of like strength and conditioning and health, the way that a growth chart looks is up, 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 then down, then up, 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 then down.
Mm-hmm.
So that setback is necessary for growth. In the setback is lessons, and there is also things that happen in the setback that there is no other way to psychologically slash mentally get you to a certain place without you experiencing that setback. So first understanding that it isn't a you failed as much as it is the failure is necessary, like in that setback. So
Yeah.
that's part one. And as far as overcoming that, again, if you have a game plan, stick to your game plan. So this is assuming that you're at the point in the journey where you have a goal and you're practicing something consistently in order to get to that goal. Just knowing that the setback itself is part of the practice, it's part of that journey. So not to be discouraged by it. I mean, like, nobody's gonna be encouraged by, oh man, I just lost $2,000 last month, right? Or
Right.
it's dry right now. So you're not gonna feel encouraged in those moments, but just knowing that every single entrepreneur that's at a place where you want to be, or I will just say that they went through it. They
Yeah.
went through it, and there's nothing more encouraging, and that's sad to hear, than someone else's failures, because it's okay. I understand that I'm not exempt. That
No.
no matter what, there's gonna
Yep.
be that, and the more stories you hear, the more you actually understand. Like, man, I'm actually not as bad off as I thought I was, because it's some I haven't had, well, I have, but like the whole, like, hey, somebody slept in a car for however amount of time, and like, hey, they was living off of sandwiches for a year. Those are some of the
Right.
sacrifices and everything that comes with it. But as far as the setback itself, it is inevitable. Stick to the game plan, and you'll be fine. Now, if it's like a constant setback and you don't get out of the setback, then you might have to you might have to change something.
Yeah.
So I guess knowing the difference in between, but that's knowing, like, having somebody else to lean on too, to say, hey, is this normal for this to happen?
Right.
There's like a breath of fresh air, and somebody saying, yes, it's normal for you to not have a sale in your first 4 to 6 months. Okay, I feel better now.
There
So
you go. And some things you just need to
yeah.
learn, and then you like you said, talking to other people, and then like they can tell you like, okay, I did this wrong, so then maybe you don't have to go through that setback because they told you like, don't do it this way because I did it this way. So then you kind of can. It's like a cheat code. Like, okay, now I don't have to go through that. I don't need to experience that. You don't have to experience like sometimes it's, if you listen to somebody else, you don't have to. You can might get to that goal quicker than they did because then nobody told them, but then they told you, so you ain't got to go through those same setbacks. Because I feel like if I'm coming to you as a real friend, I'm gonna tell you like, okay, don't do this, this, and this, because there's no point for you to do that because it's gonna prolong the process. If you can go in a straight line, you ain't got to go around the block. I'm gonna tell you how to go in a straight line if I'm trying to help you out.
Yes, that's it.
Listen, the shortest distance between two things is a straight line. Okay, so so if I had to, even though I had to go around the block, if I'm your friend, like, bro, don't do that because I didn't know, and so I'm gonna tell you not to do that. So we gonna go in this straight line. You're gonna get there quicker than I did, and and it's okay. So like, finding that person that is willing to do that too, like, because there's a lot of people that may not want to help certain, for whatever reason. Finding somebody that's truly and genuinely wanting to help you get there and see you get there even better than you and quicker than you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just helping them out.
Yeah. You get the nail on the head for sure.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard because I feel like people say go find a mentor, and they kind of get under my skin because I'm like, sometimes people ain't trying to be out here to be a mentor. They don't want a mentee.
Right.
And so I'm just like, I'm not saying it's not, you can't do it, but it's not a lot of people out here that just genuinely want to help. And when I say help, and I guess people have different definitions of help, but when I say I need help with something they navigate, I'm gonna need to call you. And if that means I gotta call you 3, 4, 5 times a week, my boy, I need you to pick up the phone. So that's my kind of help. My kind of help ain't I'll talk to you in 3 months. That's not the kind of help I'm looking for. I'm looking for direct access kind of help.
I need the kind of help that I need to say every time, sorry to bother you every time.
Right. Listen, I know you're probably busy. I got a real quick question. I ain't gonna hold you. Listen, I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you. But I need you to answer this question real quick. But yeah, I think that's important though. Like it's different types of help. Maybe I need you to, some people you just need to hold their hand. Some people you don't. Some people you just be like, hey, go do the X, Y, and Z. They can go execute X, Y, Z. Once you finish that, then come back to me. Then it's people that you need to hold their hand. It's just it's different kinds of help out here that people need.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
That's nail on the head there. And you know what? Something else I learned too. I'm jumping back, but it ties into this. Yeah. Is when I was doing the hiring coaches and training and developing them and all of that, I learned that everybody is not meant to do everything.
Yeah.
So the way that everybody's wired differently. So Shania, you are wired to do some stuff that I cannot do. Right. Or I'm gonna be on the struggle bus. You can breathe and do it. For me, it's gonna take me 3 hours or something for you to do like 10 minutes.
Right.
So then also understanding what type of help that you need. Yeah. That's important too. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's not a gopher. Like, hey, tell me what to do. I'm out. Right. I can do it.
Right.
So that is part of that. So I guess knowing
like what kind of personality, like, and then because that's the struggle for me because I'm a type A personality. So I think everybody, you can spit something at me and I can go do it. And so then that's how I feel like everybody else should learn. That's not it. Like if I tell you to do something, okay, then go do it. Some people you gotta be like, I gotta show you. I gotta break it down in steps, which I struggle. So listen, if you you don't want
basically you're not that mentor. You are not the mentor.
Or I'm the mentor for certain people. I'm the mentor for people that I can say go do X, Y, but you gotta know who those people are. You can't go say I'm mentor and I can mentor to everybody. No, I can't. I can't mentor to everybody. I can mentor to people that are similar in personality to me because I'm going to sit here and tell you to go do X, Y, Z. Have you done it? Have you tried? Did you fail? Now come back to me because then I can help you. Right?
Right.
So it's just knowing who you can help because it's not saying like just go if you want to be a mentor. And I'm not going to, like, unless you really want me to mentor, like I'm not going to put myself out there and be like, oh, I want to mentor you.
Right.
I feel like everybody's not everybody cup of tea. Like, so you can't just be out here saying I commit. So just like you, Henry, you can say I do real estate, but everybody, and you want to be a mentor in real estate, but you're not gonna appeal to everybody. So you just got to know how your style is, and it's not going to fit everybody. One size does not fit all, and so you just got to know. You just got to know, and that's why, like, yeah, you can Henry, you can tell me go Shania, go whatever, go outside, do it. Hey, Skip, do it this way. You ain't got to show me. You can just sit there and tell me, and I can go out there and do it.
Right.
It's just different learning styles and knowing what kind of help you need. Being honest with yourself and say, this is the type of person I am. I need you to hold my hand, or I don't need you to hold my hand. Can you do that? And the person that say you asking need to be like honest and like, I can't hold your hand, but I can tell you how to do it. Situation. When it come down to it, just be honest with how you can help and how you cannot help. Is what I'm saying.
So it sounds like really whoever the person is who was experiencing the setback and needing to get the help and figuring out what kind of help they need, they have to know themselves first.
That part.
So I mean, and there's different ways to find out, not just, oh, I wake up in the mirror and I say I love you, not like the self-love, but actually how you're wired. And that was something I learned too, was the whole, like, they have the DISC assessment, they have these different things so that you can figure out, hey, this is the box that I fall into. So knowing this, now I know what kind of help I need. So now you're not wasting time asking somebody who doesn't fit the way that they communicate their learning, or their teaching style is not going to accommodate your learning style. So that I would say that too is in the midst of, maybe even before the setback, figuring out, who you are and how you're wired. And then you can start to put more of your energy into your learning and that facet. So that when you do experience that setback, you know exactly who to go to or what to go to based on what will help you the most. So you're right. There is going to be some time, because there isn't always a mentor that's going to fit that. So you are going to have to take a little bit of time figuring out what kind of help you need and what your support system would look like.
Yeah. You just gotta know what kind of help you need, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's for me. Like I'm the queen of not wanting to ask for help. But
same. I'm drowning over here. I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. And like, hear me.
Listen, I gotta come up, brother. I can't drown forever. I can't drown forever. I gotta come up.
I'm fine.
I gotta come up with eventually. I gotta come up for breath eventually.
Oh man.
Okay. So what kind of advice would you offer a collegiate athlete that may be considering a similar career path as you chose? What kind of advice would you offer them that you wish you have known when you left college?
Yeah. So from being in the entrepreneur space, I mean, you kind of understand in the athlete space that the gratification is not always instant.
Yeah.
So like when you came in as a freshman, for instance, all of this was new to me, like weight room training, all of this. So there are so many things that were new.
Yeah.
I'm hurting. It's a lot. But I'm having to keep the end in mind the whole time, because I'm not able to see it then. So that first year, guess what? I put on 15 pounds of muscle, but I wasn't like in the game yet. So one part improved, but I still wasn't anywhere near where I needed to be. Right. And then the next year is like, okay, now I'm actually starting to play, and there's like that slow growth development. So you have to keep that same mindset of when you first got there, or you first got in the ball, where you had to develop different parts and it didn't all come together at the same time. But when they saw you when you was a senior, they like, oh my gosh, strong, high IQ, production, like it's the same concept. There is going to be that in the beginning, you're going to put this work in and you're not going to see anything. You may not even see the field at all or the court at all. But it will continue to go. So you just got to keep putting in that work, and find things that are going to give you the gratification you need to keep going. Because
Oh, okay.
whereas when we played ball, once we get in, we score, we get a breakup, we get a tackle, whatever. There's that gratification for all the work I put in. I just made this play.
Yeah.
So just know that you have to find. That's why the goal setting is important, because once you have to have, goals have goals in between. So once you set the big goal, then you can start to hit the small goals, and that'll give you the same gratification as, hit a three, got this tackle, got this catch, scored this time, right? So it's just you have to, once you set up the goal, you have to find those things in between to give you that gratification, because it gets discouraging.
Yeah, you gotta
If you
fall. I
don't
tell
look
people you gotta
yourself in the
fall in love
mirror
with the
like that,
process too. It's just falling in love
the
with the process.
process, the
And
process.
a lot of people don't want to fall in love with the process because it's boring and mundane.
Yes, yes. And especially if it's new,
Yep.
I knew absolutely nothing about real estate.
Yep.
I knew my parents paid a mortgage. That was the only thing I knew about real estate.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing else. So, it's human nature. Learning
Right.
something new is already going to be uncomfortable and tough,
Yep.
let alone this new thing I'm learning is going to be how I'm going to make a living and take care of myself and my family, and I know nothing about it. Your inclinations always run back to whatever I was doing.
Yep. Yep.
But just keep looking yourself in the mirror. Say, I can do this. Keep physical things somewhere that you can see that have your goals or something positive. Because believe it or not, those things stay in your psyche, in your subconscious, whenever times get tough. Because it's gonna happen. There is 100%. You're gonna look at yourself and say, I don't think this is for me. This ain't gonna cut it.
This ain't it. This ain't it, cuz.
So that's probably the best advice is, once you set that goal, man, just again, the process. Just stay late. You will, if you just run the play, or no matter how long it takes, it will happen. But that's the reason why less than 1% can do it, because they get discouraged.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've been running this play for this long and I haven't scored yet. But you didn't know that you was on the one. You was on the one, and you didn't even know like that next one was gonna be the touchdown. So you just gotta stay with it. The way the graph works for being an entrepreneur, it looks like this. Right? So here early on, you won't see nothing.
Right.
Excuse me. You don't see anything. And then, oh, there's a little something.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, I drop back down. And then, okay, boom.
It take that one time. It take that one time to.
That's it. But this part right here, from here to here, where it's just straight.
Yeah.
Stick it out. Just
stick it out. Like
grit
and consistency for sure. Because you're right. It's gonna get discouraged. It gets discouraging. Yeah. You're gonna be like, bro, like. Honestly, because I start going like, dang, what choices did I make to get to this point? Like, I start recalling these choices. I'm like, bro, I gotta make better choices or something.
Yeah.
This ain't cutting. This is not cutting it. And so that is true. Like it's gonna get discouraging. And I just, for me, and what I've learned so far, I've only worked like 2 real jobs that's W-2s, like for a long time. One in Arkansas was for 7 years, and then when I got here for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why it's taking me this long to just finally just be like, you can't work for folks. Like you just, the way your personality set up and the way you want to do stuff. Mm-hmm. I try that just because you believe in the false reality of that job and security, and it's not. Your job isn't. You don't have security at any point in time. Again, just like COVID happened, you be gone.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I'm just like, at this point, I'm just gonna have to just go ahead and do it. Like it's almost like forced upon me now, because I'm trying to. Yeah. I'm just like, I just can't, because it's something. I don't know. I just got to go ahead and I've done. We've always had like, real estate, but I've always had a job with the real estate. I've never just not had a job without doing something on the side. I've always had something, and we've done all this stuff on the side. So I've always had a job, and I've done all the other stuff on the side. Yeah. And it's time to be like, bro, just I'm straddling the fence is what I was doing.
Yeah.
So you gotta
Yeah.
pick a side. You gotta pick a side.
But that's tough because picking a side means there's no other option.
There's no other option. There's no
There's
other
no
option.
other option. There's no other option. I
So
think that's it. That's also too something else that you gotta that advice that you was talking about is you gotta treat it like there is no other option.
that part
Because
for sure.
yeah, you gotta treat it like there's no other option. Because as soon as it gets tough, you're gonna retreat to back whatever your close to other option is, you're going back to it.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. You're gonna be like, bro, I'm gonna go ahead and just gonna get this job. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no bridge. You gotta burn that bridge. I forgot what book
Yeah.
that was. It's like you gotta burn that bridge. Ain't
Burn
no
it.
going back. There's no
Yep.
going back. There's no going back.
Yeah. Oh wait, you brought up a good point too. Something that they need to know is the evolution, right? You come into it thinking, this is my goal, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I'm gonna be,
Yeah.
and then something else change, and you're like, you know what? I think I'm gonna try to do this, right? So it's evolving, and so whatever you started as is not gonna be what you finish as.
No.
So that's something to know too, is that it's not gonna be, and don't feel bad about making the change because inevitable, whatever change it is, to stick with it.
Yeah. Change is constant. I tell that all the time. Change is constant. Change is constant. And some people agree to disagree with me, Jabari. And change is immediately. I don't care what nobody say. Change is immediate. And this is a handful of people that when you hear like how change is immediate. Because if you have to change and if it's a situation where it's dire, like you're gonna do it immediately. Yeah. So I wholeheartedly think change can be immediate. You can change immediately.
Yeah. People who can, so you're right, the people who can make the immediate change are the ones who have I want to say, more efficient straight line to success, because half of that journey is figuring out when I'm going to make the change. I'm going to do it when this happens or this happens. I need these things to change, as opposed to I'm changing it around. I'm going to figure everything else after, but I'm changing this right now.
Right. And becoming that person. Yeah. And then what I've also learned is like, becoming that person. So you got to become, like, I know like we want to change all the other stuff outside of us, but becoming that person to even achieve that whatever success looks like for you. How do you even become that person? Because I feel like we always worried about the external stuff. Like I can change this habit or whatever, but like I got to become the person to even be able to even receive that success or can handle that success. Or the responsibility of that success. And so just that, you got to evolve as a person. You got to evolve as a person. Change as a person.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation, and it's a hard thing. And that's one thing. Just like people that want to lose weight, don't want to change their diet. It's a whole. It's that one thing. That one thing can change your life. You only want to do it. Is change the way you eat. But yeah. So that's good. So what is some like last? Okay, for Henry, what's an inspirational thing that keeps you going every day when it gets tough? What's some inspirational words of encouragement that you may say to yourself, and you may want somebody else to know when it gets tough over there for Henry Hall?
Well, I guess for me. I say this when I'm speaking to people personally, but be careful, not be careful, be leery of whatever you wish or pray for, because if you are diligent and you stay with it, you will get it. Now, you're not going to get it when you want it. And it's definitely not going to look exactly how you thought it was going to look or be what you asked for, but it will be exactly what you needed when you needed it, and everything along the way is necessary for you to have been able to get that. So that's the main thing, is knowing that once you say, this is what I want, it's already in action. Once you say that, you speak it, you pray it, this is inevitable. Now, what you want may not look exactly as what you thought it was going to look like, but it will be exactly what you want, if not more. But everything along the way, it's the only way for you to have been able to get that. So when you're like, this sucks, it's because this is necessary for that to happen.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that you'll ever have to process during that is when something happens that you may not be ready for or happy about. Did this happen because I messed up somewhere along the way? Or did this happen because it's inevitable? And I think the answer is always this was the inevitability no matter what. You asked for this, so this was a part of it. And that's what you tell yourself when you're like, it's 1 a.m., I can't sleep. How is this going to work? This is inevitable. I will be able to figure it out. It's going to work out better than I imagined. I just got to stay encouraged and stick with it. So that's the main thing, is every single part of what happens to you along that. This is my goal. This is what I pray for. It's a part of the journey. That's what keeps me away from like depression. And every day I wake up like, why Henry always happy? Because everything that happens is a part of this plan. And I'm going to get there. And when it ain't a good day, that's okay. That's a part of it. Because guess what? This is the picture. Some of the pictures this color, some of it's this color, but altogether it's a beautiful picture.
There you go. And I know some stuff. And Henry do be happy every day, Henry. That's good. I ain't never seen Henry. I ain't never seen you upset. I ain't never seen you mad. Listen.
Oh man.
The day I see you mad, I know I gotta get away. Listen. Y'all done made Henry mad. I gotta go.
That's why I gotta like work out so much, because that's my out.
There you go. Because I'm like, y'all
didn't with the weights.
Listen, y'all didn't piss Henry off. I am out of here. It's not gonna turn out well for any of us.
Yeah, well, prayerfully nobody will ever see that day. So,
all right. Man. So closing up, what are some key takeaways that you think listeners will like hear from your story today? Like, what are some key takeaways that you hope that whoever listens to this podcast will take away from what you've said today?
Never settle for what you're not happy with. So wherever you are in life, if you are not happy in life, or the steps that you're taking is not towards something that you'll be happy doing, change immediately.
There you go.
Look at what it takes to get what you need to do. Change immediately. If you see, Henry wore a lot of hats, and a lot of hats you thought Henry should be wearing, he's not wearing. A lot of hats that didn't necessarily fit Henry just fine right now. But you have to make that decision. No one else can determine your journey but you, not your family, not your friends, not your spouse. You determine your journey, because at the end of the day, if you're not happy, life won't be happy.
Yeah.
So you got to be happy doing what you're doing. So that's probably the main takeaway is, once you say, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I will make you happy, then stop at nothing and tune out the world and just make it happen and get all the help that you need.
And I add to like, also, even when you said like, and you're responsible for your own happiness, not nobody else. Even if you're married, your spouse is not responsible for your happiness either.
They are not.
And that's a tough pill to swallow when you live with somebody every day. But just being married and being with that, you would think that they are responsible, and they're not responsible for your happiness at all.
I mean, even people with kids too, right? Like, so you're like, oh, my kids are the biggest joy, and they are. Biggest blessing, biggest joy. Yeah. But you need to be happy with yourself.
That part.
Whether your kids are there or not.
Yeah, because they got to grow up and they're going to be gone eventually.
One day.
Yep. So that's good. That's good. Well, thanks so much for sharing all the wisdom and the insight. Can you let everybody know how to reach Henry Hall? What's your social media handles?
My number is 281-330.
There you go.
Just kidding, Mike Jones. No, so on Instagram, Henry Hall Star, Facebook, Henry Hall username or Henry Hall Star, but just Henry Hall will be fine. But either one of those, I'm on. I mean, I got TikTok. I'm on there as well. It's Hen Dizzle. I'm not really on there as much, so don't follow me on TikTok. But IG, Henry Hall Star, Henry Hall Facebook, or username Henry Hall Star. Either one, you can find. All right. Let's go.
Thanks, and that's a game.